Hi,
Hi, I'm Kristina
I'm Maja,
from Bookworm Dream.
and welcome to a new video. So today we are going to give you like a yearly wrap up of our reads. We found a bunch of questions. Look how white I look. We found a bunch of questions on the internet. Actually, the idea came from a YouTuber called Capri's Bookland. She sort of gathered a bunch of questions and answered them in her video. I will leave the link to her video down below in the comments, in the description box, so you can check it out. We borrowed some of the questions, and we are going to not answer all of them, but some of them that we found interesting. So, first question.
First question, most disappointing read of the year.
For me, that would be A Taste of Golden Iron by Alexandra Rowland and Lessons Never Learned by Rob J. Hayes. So the first one was a disappointment because I was expecting something completely different from what I got. I expected sort of fantasy romance similar to, what was it? Winter's Orbit by, forgot the author's name, something Katarina, which was a really wonderful love story with an arranged marriage and like political intrigue and stuff, and there was mystery. And I thought that A Taste of Golden Iron was the same, because the summary said that we are following like a prince and his bodyguard, and they are dealing with some counterfeit mystery something. And it was not that. It was just very, first of all, the romance happens in the last third of the book, and it's very cliched and full of like fan fiction tropes, which were not well done. And the whole mystery of the counterfeit coins or whatnot was sort of solved off screen, and it was very, very annoying, and I was very disappointed. And the second book, Lessons Never Learned by Rob J. Hayes, was a sequel to a very fantastic book called Along Razor's Edge, where we follow a young character who is trying to survive in this huge prison. And basically throughout the first book, they are trying to get out. And there's magic systems, there's people in prison. So it was very tense and very, very interesting. And I really, really enjoyed that read. And the sequel was such a disappointment because, it was kind of suffering from second book syndrome, where it went like Ushirino, with many details and was stupid things that were not important at all. I had no idea what was happening most of the time, and it was just so disappointing. Do you want to say hi to
That
Tanya?
was Maya's sister propping up in a video.
Do you want to say hi to? She's waving.
Oh.
Okay, what were your most disappointing books of the year?
So actually, my most disappointing book of the year was in the very beginning of the year, because you told me to read Mistletoe by Kimberly Lemming.
Because it's awesome.
And it was awesome. I loved it. I love the characters. I love there wasn't really that much plot, but it was interesting. Like, everything was very fun. So I decided to kind of read the series. And the first book is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon.
Mm-hmm.
And I DNF'd it after roughly 30% because I didn't like it like at all. I didn't like the characters. I didn't feel any connection between them. I think I was particularly like, something irked me about the demon.
Okay.
That like, I just didn't like his character, like what he
Mm-hmm.
was doing and the way he was doing it. So just that kind of it was sad because Mistletoe was so bloody brilliant. I will try at least one other book from the series to see maybe if like the type of characters are like more to my liking. But this one was really just sad. And the second disappointment was basically Sword Heart, because you pumped it up so much, and like it was like, I think maybe the best book of the year for you last year, and everything was like, and I was like so pumped, like, oh my god, this is gonna be so good, and it was just like meh. So it was more like, I expected like a lot, and I didn't get that, and that's why it was a disappointment.
Okay.
Yeah. So next book is a book that surprised you.
Okay, so I have also two. So one we share in common, which is the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers. It was surprising to me because I read something by Becky Chambers and gave it 5 stars. because it was really, I think I read it at the right moment. We follow a monk and a robot as they sort of meet and start a friendship, and there's lots of talk about the meaning of life and what people are supposed to do. And I'm not usually at the type that would enjoy such a book, but it was a really, really interesting audiobook, and I really, really enjoyed myself. I listened to it on the way to a concert, so the trip took 6 hours, so I needed something to do. So yeah, it was really good. And another thing that I really was surprised by is this book. This is The Imaginary Corpse by Tyler Hayes. And in this book, we follow this toy that is basically a detective that lives in an imaginary world where like forgotten toys go and ideas go to that are sort of created by children and some by grown-ups. And suddenly there's an idea in his world that is killing other ideas and his friends, and he's dealing with the case. And what I really loved about it was the way that our character approached everyone else. It was like he was treating everyone as they were children, and he did it in such a compassionate way and with such great feeling and empathy. And I read it at the right time, and I really enjoyed it, and it was a really, really a big surprise for me.
Yeah.
What are your most surprising books?
I mean, you said it. My books that most surprised me were the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers, because I just loved the way it was written. I loved the what it was talking about. I just loved everything about it. Like we basically wanted to read just the first one. We ended up reading both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely gonna try at least something else by Becky Chambers. I know you don't like her, but I think at least I need to try because I love this so much.
Okay.
So yes, new favorite author you discovered in
So
2023.
when I saw this question, I was a bit concerned, but then I went to look at, because I thought I read something by this author first last year, but I didn't. So my new favorite author I discovered in 2023 is Jessie Michalik. I read 8 books by her this year. I started first one because it was like a space opera romance, and then I read the entire trilogy. Then I read another trilogy by her, and I have one book left from her third trilogy. And I believe when I read that, I will read everything that she has ever written. And she writes really, really fun space opera romances. The endings get to be a bit melodramatic sometimes, but how we get there is really fun. And yeah, it's my favorite that I discovered this year.
Okay,
What
very
about
good.
you?
So the first one I know I read this year, for the first time, and that was Luke Arnold. And it was actually quite a rough start because the Let's Smile in Thunder City is quite, dark. I believe Maya calls it grim dark. But by the second book, I was just enamored with the entire concept and Fetch as a character and everything. Just I just loved everything about it. So this second author, I was also very afraid that the first book, that is, I know I read the first book last year, but I had to include this author because I read all of her books this year, except for
Okay.
the first one, the novella one. I read everything else this year because I freaking loved it so much. So that is gonna be, I'll show you. So wait, where is it? There you go. That is Antonia Mirzari. So I read this Mistress of Geese. This was from last year. It is from the inside. And What Do Nightmares Dream of? Also a novella. Why is okay?
Yeah, it's
No,
focusing now.
Okay, so basically, I read Antonia's novella It Eats Us from the Inside last year, and I read everything else I could find in physical format this year, and I absolutely love her writing. I love how atmospheric it is. That's literally, I keep saying it, but the atmosphere that she creates is so incredible. In The Mistress of Geese, there's one story that is by far one of my favorite short stories of all times. It was so bloody hectic and trippy, and I just felt it throughout the entire story. I felt like I was in the story, and that was amazing. I love the characters. I love the horror elements within the fantasy elements, within the fantasy setting, and I just really love her writing. That's it. Okay,
Good.
so new book, new question. Happiest read of the year.
So for me, that would be a romance which came out of nowhere. It's called Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. I saw this. Ava Romance Reader recommended this a lot on her channel. And I was like, okay, the premise sounded interesting and I read it. So basically, we follow two characters who meet at a Halloween party because people keep thinking that they have a couple's costume because both of them are pirates. He has a peg leg because he lost his leg due to cancer, and she has a hook for her arm because she has an underdeveloped arm. And so people are thinking, oh, you guys are so great. So they meet, they have a one night stand, and she gets pregnant. And from then on, they sort of they meet. I mean, they come together, but not in a relationship, but in like, okay, let's deal with this situation. And what I really loved about this book is the way that they dealt with each other. There was no unnecessary drama. There was no like third act anything. They were just so wonderful with each other, and sort of we see them form this relationship, form a friendship, and then form a romantic relationship. And it was just such a surprising. I gave it 5 stars, and when I looked at my like all the books I read this year, I gave like 1, 2, 3, 4. I gave 5 books 5 stars, and that was one of them. And usually it's my 5 stars are very like instinctual. I'm like, this was fantastic. I have no qualms. And yeah, it is a happy read. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Definitely would recommend it for you to read because it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so my happiest reads were actually rereading Ilona Andros. I'm sorry, I have to mention it. I like reread the entire Hidden Legacy series. I read the Innkeeper Chronicles. I started the Edge series. I just haven't finished yet the first book. I just it's such a happy place that Ilona Andrews creates that I just whenever I feel down, this is like my go-to author and just go-to books. It just I don't know. It's just awesome, and that's what made me happy this year. That is. Then we have a question I don't have an answer for, but Maya does. So, most frustrating book of the year.
Okay, I have 2. So the
Oh,
first
there
one
you go.
is The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling. This was frustrating because I was expecting a sci-fi horror. This is what this book is marketed as. And there's a cool cover. You will see as a hand like reaching out of a depth of a cave. And I was, expecting, horror with aliens and caves and such. And I got this like psychological thriller thing with 2 characters, with one of them just basically torturing the other because of fucking reasons. And it was so frustrating. I can't even believe I finished it. That's I was like, I think I was frustrated to see just how this whole thing would end, and it was just horrible. And I did
Oh,
not like it at all. The other one is Only Human by Sylvain Novelle. This is the 3rd book in the Themis Files. Everybody tells you that this gets worse as it goes along. And totally true, because this is the 3rd one. The first one has a really awesome premise. We follow a scientist who finds a robotic hand somewhere in a hole in the earth, and they find the whole robot, and then they're trying to figure out what the fuck is happening. And in the 3rd book, we follow mostly a teenage character being a teenager and rebelling against her father, who is protecting her for fucking good reason. And it was just awful. And I cannot believe also that I finished it, but I was like, I want to finish the series so I don't have to look at it again. And yeah, it was very frustrating because I don't like reading teenagers and when they do stupid decisions because they're teenagers and they don't know better, but still, it was very frustrating.
yeah. I totally understand that. When I read it, I also loved the first one, the other two. Okay, so let's just move on to the best adaptation of the year. So, can I say first because like I had a real problem with this because basically didn't really read like anything that was adapted this year. So, but I watched We Have a Ghost, and I loved the movie. It's like
Mm-hmm.
full of a teenager that discovers a ghost in like the attic of a suspiciously, cheap house that his parents bought. And
Mm-hmm.
I found out it was based on a short story called Ernest by Jeff Manaw, I think.
Manau, I
But
would say
anyways,
Manau.
I love the movie, so like hopefully the short story is good as well. But it was very funny and like I really enjoyed it. And well, oh right, and the one thing I really enjoyed, which I binge watched like basically until 4 in the morning, is My Life with the Walter Boys by Ali Novak. That's like a book and the TV show, and I guess I wanted something to just forget that I have a brain and just
Mhm.
live the teenage drama of finding somebody you like. But it was very fun. It was very
Okay,
fun.
that's great. Well, I I didn't watch. This is the thing. I didn't watch the second season of Shadow and Bone, which would be like a thing I've read and enjoy, and because I don't know, it didn't get. I didn't get to it this year, and I heard it got canceled, so I'm not really all that thrilled to go see it. I have like three things that I've watched that I know that are adapted by something that I haven't experienced. So, for example, the show The Last of Us on HBO, which is an adaptation of a game. I know what the game is about. I haven't played the game, but the show was fantastic. So that's one thing. Then we have Dungeons and Dragons, the new movie with Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, and everything. I know what Dungeons and Dragons is about. I know, like, I watched the previous movies that were made on this IP, and but this one was really fun and really enjoyed it. I technically read Good Omens, so I can say that I watched the second season of Good Omens, which I really enjoyed. It was lots of fun, but mostly because we follow Michael Sheen and David Tennant do awesome stuff. I want to mention another thing that I haven't put on our list is Loki season 2. I haven't read any Marvel comics, but I've been following Loki since he appeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe almost 10 years ago, even more. And the second season was absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I haven't like read any of the source material, but I know their adaptations and I know they're fantastic. So that's that.
Oh, cool. Okay, so what's the longest book you read this year?
That would be Sarah J. Maas's House of Earth and Blood. My book has 798 pages. What about
And
you?
mine is Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. I believe you have it. Do you have it? Maybe?
I don't have the Assassin's Quest, no.
Oh, okay. So mine was 757 pages.
Okay.
What about the shortest book you read
So I
this
read
year?
a, I read a novella by Lillian Lark. This is part of her monster matchmaker series, something like that, and it's called Ensnared by the Werewolf. It was awful. It was 76 pages.
Okay. So I have a 56-page. Is that even a novella? Short story?
I don't know.
The Witch's Wolves by Ellie Mae McGregor. This was recommended to me by Maya. It was really fun. It was really quick, and just I enjoyed it very much. Like fantasy romance,
Yeah,
erotica, more like those two.
pretty much. Yes.
Okay, so what is your favorite cover of the year?
Okay, I have two books for this. So the first one is Empire of the Vampire. I have this one,
Ooh.
and I really, really enjoyed it, and it's really a fantastic cover. There are many others you can try, like there are different editions, but this one's really cool. And another book that has a fantastic cover that we talked about a lot this year is Slavic Supernatural. See here, let me find the best angle for this cover.
Yeah, you
So
can
this was
see it.
a cover created by Corinne Hunyak. Antonio Filipovic. Yes, Antonio Filipovic did this cover, and it's fantastic, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think it was, yes, Antonio Filipovic did this, and it's fantastic. I don't know who did this one, but it's also very good. What about you? Which book has your favorite cover?
Does it need to be from this year? That's
Technically. Did you not read? What was it? House with Good Bones. Whether you read House with Good Bones?
I don't think is it from 2023 though?
Yes, we read it this year because we had the live show with the girls.
Okay. I don't know if it needed to be like issued, like
No.
published.
The deal is to read the book this year.
Okay. So this is my favorite cover by far. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like I love it so much. We didn't like the book that much, but I will never
It was
get rid
bad.
of the book because like look at this. This is amazing. Like I love it. Like
Yes.
everything is so good. Like yeah, so this one.
I love how this. I don't think that door knocker has anything to do with or is even mentioned in the story.
No.
I mean, it's a very cool door knocker, but it does
there's a
nothing.
key here also,
Okay.
which doesn't
Also,
make much sense.
yeah.
And they're like roses in here, but that
Okay,
makes
that
sense
makes
for
sense.
the
That kind
book.
of makes sense.
But
But
like the entire book is so gorgeous. I just like, yeah. Okay, a book you haven't stopped thinking about.
so for me, that would be Machinehood by S.B. Divya. So this is science fiction story in which we follow. It's like a distant future where people are very not addicted, but not compliant. Obviously, Aline obviously co-addicted. They really rely on technology, and there is a terrorist group that basically is trying to make them like less reliant on technology. They issue like a warning: in 3 days we're going to cut off all your technology and stuff. And people use technology. They have smart houses. They have like stuff in their bodies that keep them healthy and whatnot. And there is a very interesting discussion on faith and what you believe, how that can affect other people. Because there's a whole, we follow a couple. One is an Indian woman, and one is a white guy from America who is a born again Christian who found his fate after I think his mother died and whatnot. And at one point, the Indian woman becomes pregnant, and there's a whole discussion about abortion and whether she can do it or not without her husband's approval or permission and whatnot. And yeah,
Oh,
because there's a like she talks to her doctor, and she's like, okay, great, we'll send you whatever you need. Oh, I see here your husband is of this faith. Because of the rules, we have to get like his whatever. And there's a whole discussion, and you know what happens. And I've been thinking about it uh a lot since I've read it, and you know it sort of pops in my head every once in a while. So yeah, that's the
yeah.
book I pick. What about you?
I'm gonna say Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. That's
Mhm.
the first book I read this year, so that says a lot. I enjoyed it so much. It was such a beautifully written, interesting book. Like the story of this just trans boy, trying to prove to his family that he's not a witch, but that is a brujo, that he is a brujo, not a bruja.
Mhm.
So like it was amazing. The cast of characters, like his friends, best friend, and like the other friend that he has the blooming romance with this other boy. It was just, I don't know. I just keep remembering. Maybe that was also one of the happiest reads I read this year, because it was just so amazing, and I just keep remembering it, and I just want to buy and try other books by this author, because it was just such a beautiful book. That's it.
All right.
Oh, sorry, I'm the one with the questions. Okay, what is the cringiest book you read this year?
Okay, so not technically cringiest, but it is it's in that realm. So during the summer, I had a huge list of books I had to read while I was on vacation because I was doing the Aurelium readathon, and I found one of the authors I follow on YouTube recommended this book 6 in this series because it's so awesome. We follow like a female warrior, and she's sort of trying to prove a point that she doesn't have to be like a feminine person, that she doesn't have to get married, have children and whatnot. And it's like all set in this like medieval fantasy land. And then I thought, oh great, this is going to be like a simple fantasy romance for me to read between all the other stuff I have to read. And since it was book 6 or something, it's like I can't read book 6, I have to read the first one. And the first one is about this so this whole series is set in a land where you have humans, trolls, and elves, and everyone's fighting. And they have this sort of truce between the fights, and they're like, okay, let's get married and sort of work on that. And the human has to marry an elf, and there's like it's not hate, it's like they get to know each other, and he's all like traumatized from the war, and she's all sweet and sunshine, so the sunshine and grump basically trope. And it was, the first book was fine, I liked it, it was interesting, they had no smut in it. I was like, oh, but they're building the relationship, they don't know each other. I think they maybe kissed in the third one for the first time, and then I went to Google it, and it's like it's a clean romance. And I'm like, are you serious? It's a clean romance. And so yeah, I kept reading, kept getting more frustrated because there was lots of stuff happening, but nothing with like in the romantic sense. they kept holding hands and kissing. I'm like, that's great. And the sixth book, when I finally got to the sixth book, and I was so sort of pumped up because I got to know the characters, and this was sort of portrayed with like there's going to be so much angst in this book because there's going to be this fight between oh my god, forgot the woman's name. So the troll was like a bodyguard of the troll king, and she fucked up at one point, and so she's sort of dealing with a lot of guilt and whatnot. And this was supposed to be angst filled because her like intendant or whatever fiance guy is also kind of dealing with stuff, sort of being the spare of the family, and he has to like prove his worth and whatnot. And this book had zero angst. It had like idiotic plots, and the whole series was just, I was like, clean romance is not for me. I need spice in my romances. It's just the whole thing. But I read like 6 books in this series. It's just so ridiculous. So I'm also cringe. I'm cringe because I kept reading it, and the whole thing is cringe because it's cringe, and it was just like,
Oh, yeah. Okay, I don't have an answer for that one, so I'll answer first the next one
all
because
right.
we share one of the things. So, what were our highest and lowest rated books that we read this year on Goodreads, and do you agree with that? So,
Okay.
our highest rated book is The Office of Dead Letters by Nat Newman. So, this is like a small novella that we read for our book club, and I'm not shocked that it is one of the highest ones because it's a small author. I'm guessing the audience isn't as wide as with more popular books. So I'm guessing like it has a 4.79 average on Goodreads. For me, I really enjoyed the book. I wouldn't give it such a high score, but I understand why it is high. It's like a sci-fi novella about, kind of Maya, how do you explain it? Like about
there are women who work in an office, and they find like letters that have no addresses, and they went to go to look at this address that they found, and they found a hole in the space-time continuum, and then
yes,
stuff
thank you.
happened.
That's what I was missing. The hole in the
Yes,
space-time continuum. Yes. So
yes.
basically, yeah. So I don't know. I don't think you liked it that much, or
No,
you were just like, meh.
it was I mean, the concept is interesting, but it got a bit complicated at points, and I was like, okay, I read it, that's great. What about your lowest rated
My lowest one
book?
was Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. It had a 3.54, which I have to say talks a lot about how good I chose books this year because that's actually a pretty high score. Like 3.45. That is the lowest score I had. Like, cool. Anyways, I would agree. But see, here's the thing with Tessa Bailey. I like everything in her books except the smut scenes. The smut scenes bug me so much that just like it. I don't know why I keep reading them because they usually get a 3, but like
Maybe you
so
like I mean, you like everything else but the smut. Is smut
yeah.
the big part of the books or not?
Mm, it's not erotica. It's like standard romance with the like the smut part. But like I don't know, I just don't like that type of smut so much. Like every time I get to it, I'm like, oh, okay, and I just skip it. I don't care. So I guess I agree. So what
Okay.
is your lowest rated?
So the high is the same as yours, the Office of Dead Letters, but the low one is the sky above. Okay, Kauka is like a German expression for something in the Hungarian something. I don't know. My father told me. I was like, I have no idea what the fuck this is, but this is apparently a German expression for the uh, an army of that period. So this is steampunk book written by a Croatian author. The rating it has on Goodreads is 2.57, and I would I don't know if I would agree with being that low. But it was, and I mean, it has interesting concepts, and then it's totally messed up with so many like cameos by famous people, and you get more frustrated and more annoyed because you kept trying to figure out if all those famous people would live and be in the sort of same area at the time. So you have like Nikola Tesla, you have Slavoljub Penkala, who are two famous Croatian inventors. Then you have Sigmund Freud, and then you have Gilles Verne, is that how you say his name? The famous French explorer, and other people. And it was just ridiculous. Basically, I mean, the plot is interesting. You follow sort of a mysterious, let's call him space pirate, as he goes around destroying the aerial army of the Austrian kingdom or whatnot. And yeah, but it could have been better, but it was an interesting read. I definitely want to check out more by the author because I like the concepts, not the characters. So
Okay. So, what was a book with the most unique concept?
So one I mentioned before, I'm just trying to pick out of the bottom of the pile. So this one, sorry.
Run.
The Imaginary Corpse by Taylor Hayes. I already said what this was about. It has a very interesting concept. And the other one is Tender is the Flesh by the author whose name I cannot pronounce. It's an Argentinian author.
Agustina Basterica.
Yes. So it's a horror story in a dystopian world where apparently all meat is poisoned.
Human.
And now humans are eating other humans. And yeah, it was an interesting concept, and I really enjoyed the book. And then there is a fun one, which was written by Andrew Rove, and it's How to Defeat the Demon King in 10 Easy Steps. It's a lit RPG story in which we follow a young character who basically goes on a quest to defeat this demon king. And she's like, okay, I'm going to pick a power, and I don't remember what her power was, but it's completely stupid. And she basically goes throughout the book collecting experience points and leveling up, and then finding friends and stuff, and then together they go and defeat the king. And it's really fun, and it's I think it was an Audible exclusive, so you can get it only on audiobook, but it was really, really fun read with an interesting concept.
Cool. Well, I don't have nothing to add because I also read Tender is the Flesh, and that's my answer. So, yeah, that's it. And
Okay.
finally, we come to the last question, which is book you read that you would reread.
Okay, so I would at some point reread Monk and Robot series because, when you're in this philosophical mood, I think they were great. And I also want to reread Iron and Magic by Ilona Andrews. I don't have a book to show you. This was a book that deals with one of the characters in the Kate Daniels series, which I can't tell you because it's all spoilery. But this book also deals with a marriage of convenience, and the relationship between two characters is really fantastic. There is one scene where basically they are hosting like a party, and they live in this like castle thing because of the world and such. And the woman basically comes around our main character, who is like this well-known warlord. She basically hugs him, gives him a kiss, and he's like, "Oh, guys, excuse me, I have to go talk to my wife," like insinuating something. And basically, as soon as they leave the room, and he's like, "Who died?" Because they're faking the entire thing, and they hate each other and whatnot. And it's like this relationship between the two of them is such fun. And so I think I'm going to at some point reread it next year. But yeah, it was a really fun book, and I really want to reread it at some point.
Okay, that's very cool. Okay, so I have a couple of books.
Mm-hmm.
One I already mentioned, and that is Cemetery Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Since the sequel is coming out at some point, I will definitely reread it and then read the sequel. I would also like to reread. Wait, is it here?
Mm-hmm.
Od Kolike pa do groba by Antonia Mesnaric, because I really liked it. Anyways, like any of her books, there are actually a potential for a reread. So there you go. And finally, I would really, really like to reread Lost in the Moment and Found by Shannon McGuire. This is, I think, the 8th book in the Wayward Children series. And after, kind of letting it stew for a bit, I think this is my favorite book in the entire series. It just dealt with time and innocence as a concept, and growing up and losing time and how time flies and a lot of that stuff. And it just hit like home for me so much in a way I can't really explain. So I would definitely, no matter how much actually traumatizing it was to actually read it, because it dealt with stuff I really don't like thinking about, basically. But yeah, I would definitely reread it because it was amazing. And that's it for the questions, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So to finish up this video, we're just going to share are like top 3 books. So I'll go first because I don't have 3. I'm just going to show you all the books that I have that I've given 5 stars to, because I couldn't like pick top 3 for that. So I have it in categories. So this is my fantasy picks. So I gave 5 stars to Jade City by Fonda Lee. It was really good. The real world building was interesting. The characters were fun, so I really enjoyed reading that. Then I have again 5-star read Od Koljevke pa do groba, which is an urban fantasy set in Croatia, which had really fun characters and an interesting plot. So that's one. And the last I have is The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French. I've read this with Becca from Read Becca, and also grim dark fantasy. I really liked it. I'm gonna have trouble finishing up this series because I am finding myself sort of up to here with grim dark fantasy and I can't read it anymore, so that's going to be interesting. Then for science fiction, my favorite was the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers. For romance, Out on a Limb, which I mentioned before. And for horror thriller is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. It was really creepy and it was graphic, but not like gross. I mean, it was gross, but it wasn't like too gross, and it was just really worked with the story, and I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, those are my like top books of the year.
Well, for me, it's actually quite difficult because I just told you 3 of my favorite books of the year. Because but other books that I gave 5 stars to were like a lot of Ilana Andrews books, like a lot of them, and actually One Foot in the Fade by Luke Arnold. I also gave 5 stars, which is weird. Which is weird. I also gave 5 stars to a short story collection.
Oh,
This
that's
one,
cool.
I actually loved every single story in this because every single story had like a unique concept. The characters were really fun, and just like had their own things. The first one was by far like just like the most amazing one, but all the others. So Make a Toast to Spring. That's the first one. That's like the cool one. And the others were so interesting. I couldn't give it anything less than 5. I really enjoyed like the entire collection.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of Ilona Andrews books, basically. That's it. So maybe like one cute thing I did read, which was like also like top, was the Tea Dragon Society. That was like very, very cute.
Mm-hmm.
I think you also read it
Yeah,
somewhere.
it was cute, and that was basically it. I wasn't
Yeah,
all that.
it was nothing. Like I put it as cozy fantasy, like a middle grade cozy fantasy. That's like really cute. Like I read it in December, like a couple of days ago, and I was like, oh, that's so cute. So yeah, that's basically
Okay.
it for me.
All right, so those were the questions and those were our answers. If you want to share your thoughts about the books we read, if you agree or disagree with us, please feel free to do so down below in the comments.
Yes, please like, share, subscribe. Press the bell button if you want to get notifications whenever we post new videos. Thank you so much for watching.
And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.